Hey, this is Jason with Inkspit Designs at inkspit.com, here with another tutorial for you. Today a little bit something different than what we've done so far. This is just going to be running through a recent design that we did. Actually a book cover for an ebook that we did for a client. Just showing off some of the different design choices, some of the reasons we went with some things we did, just to get you thinking about different looks, different techniques, things you can try. And how to present that to the client. So started off here with a blank canvas, and we added this texture. It's kind of a chalkboard texture. The name of this book that we're working on was called The Imaginative Mind of Malcolm. So if I start here at the bottom in the layers palette, we wanted to find a font that kind of represented, and the direction we were giving by the author was to find something, just make the cover follow the direction of the story. And actually, if we read the entire story, it's a young adult novel, or it's aimed toward, I guess, middle age or middle school age kids. Really great book. I really enjoyed it. I read it through a couple of times, and that's important, I think, if you're going to do a design. If you're able to, depending on the length of the book or whatever. If it's an album cover, then listen to the music, get kind of a feel for what the album's about. Same thing if it's a book, see if you can read at least a portion of it, get a feel for what it is you're designing for. And that's what we did here, and we went for the story takes place at a school, a young boy, and kind of some of his adventures that happen at the school. So we were going for kind of a school look. So I'm going to show you two different looks that we presented, and what we ended up with, what the author ended up going with at the end. So we have kind of a chalkboard looking font here on this chalkboard type background. And there's the author's name. We added that, and actually I'm going to add the link here where you can go download the book as soon as that goes live. We're actually putting this out a little bit before, but we'll add that in the description below. So important placement of the title here. We kind of added a warp effect, kind of an arch effect. You see that here in Illustrator. It's a live effect, and so that's why you're seeing the outline of the regular text, and the actual version of it that you see appeared is kind of a warp and arch effect. So next thing we have here is a ball. What are those balls called? A handball, I guess we called them in grade school. And we zoom in here, you see the effect we added of kind of the dimples on here, and we gave it a kind of a sheen. This is all rendered out, so you're not seeing the individual aspects of it, but we gave it kind of a sheen to kind of add some light coming in here from the right side. And then the dimple effect we used the new Illustrator CS6 pattern tool to make. Okay, and next thing we did, now in the story, you'd have to read the story, and I recommend that you do. There's a zombie portion of the book that takes place, and so we wanted to add something that represented that. And so we've got kind of this zombie hand. This is some art that we had, clip art, and we actually recolored it to what we wanted it to be for the story. And as you can see here, we have this zombie brains, and this plays into the theme of the story of his imagination, and some of these stories and experiences actually that he experiences, and that they're coming out of his mind, or in this rendering of it, the mind of the zombie. Thought it looked kind of cool. And the last thing we have here, the last component, is this sandwich, because there's a story and that plays into one of the stories, this idea of the sandwich. So kind of just mixing all of some of the key themes, or the key stories of that make up the whole story, and adding them together just kind of in a funky different way. And that's what we came up for our first look. So let's jump over here to the second look. A totally different background. We went with this kind of a green, kind of a muted green on the edges, and a brighter green in the center, with a radial gradient that kind of draws out to the edges. So a completely different look on the background cover. We went with the title here, a different look, and we wanted to make it kind of random, monstery looking, kind of old school Monster of the Week movie type of a font. and type of a look. As you see, we kind of stretched it out a little bit, made it a little bit sporadic, a little bit random. Of course, the author's name there at the bottom, and then we have our zombie hand coming out through the middle. Same kind of thing here actually with the brains and the ball and the sandwich. We went the same. So this is actually using the same exact components and the same exact layout, but just changing the overall background as well as the text of the title. So that was our second look. We sent these both to the author to kind of get his feel, and the feedback we got was good, really good from him. There's a few things that he wanted to change and a few directions he was interested in going in. So I'll show you here. This is the actual cover that we went with. So he liked the chalkboard background that we had put up, and so he liked the font here that we went with, kind of the chalkboard looking font. And then rather than zombie brains, he wanted kind of a fiction of what the boy actually looked like rather than the zombie aspect of it. One of the things he told us was that it was a little too, it was heading a little bit further towards the horror aspect of the story than he wanted to go. He wanted to keep it a little less out of the horror zombie kind of a vibe. So we have a what's the word I'm looking for? A version of the boy here, I guess I'm trying to say. And he's actually a little African-American kid with an afro, and so he wanted to make sure we had a nice big afro. And here actually you can see this is kind of the most, I don't want to say complicated or technique that we had to add to this. It's really kind of cool. If you look here at the afro, and I'm going to go into it here, you can see these curly cues kind of coming off the top like you might see just stray hairs and everything. So if you look over here in the appearance panel, those actually come about by using this brush, this chalkboard brush. So if you turn that off, all you see is that part of it's actually gone, and you see these random edges. We got those random kind of rough looking edges by using the roughen effect. So without that, it's just kind of a shape there, as you see, straight lines. So when you add that roughen effect and then you add the brushes effect, it actually gives it kind of that hair, kind of wiry, random hair type of look. Same thing down here around his forehead. We use the exact same technique. So pretty cool. Just some different things that we experimented with that for a while and tried to find the best look we could. Okay, so moving on up. Now here we went a little bit different, so we don't have the zombie hand and the brain showing or anything. So we have kind of a bubble thought here coming out of his mind, because the author still wanted to show that these thoughts were coming out of the boy's mind, because they're his stories that he shares in the story, and his experiences that he shares. So you got the thoughts coming out, and let's see here, I got some shadows showing. Let's go back from the top. So we've got here the milk carton. Zoom in on that. It's just a chocolate milk carton that plays in the story, and you actually see underneath it the drop shadow that we had showing. If I turn that off, so very important. Once you see that, you get some depth by seeing that drop shadow. Next, we have the zombie hand. If I zoom in a little bit there, you can see the drop shadow as well below that. Same reason we did that. And then you see the ball, and we got the shadow below that, showing that same ball. So again, the author, he liked all of the components that we had. He just had a few suggestions for how to depict them on the cover. A few suggestions on how to switch it up, and so we were happy to do that for him and put those together. And this is the cover that we came up with. So just some ideas of how some things came together. Different ways to look at it. Usually we try to, when we're working on a project, we'll at least submit a couple of concepts and see if we're heading in the right direction. And in this instance, we were heading in the right direction. There's just a couple things that the author wanted changed. So again, this is Jason Morris with Inkspit Designs. Check us out at inkspit.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. And go check out this book. Go pick it up. The Imaginative Mind of Malcolm. It's a really great story. It's a pretty quick read. It's not super long. If you have kids in middle school, kind of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid type age, the kids that like those books, I'm familiar with those. My kids love those books, and they love this one as well. It's kind of right in there in that same genre. So pick it up, and I know you'll enjoy it. All right. Talk to you guys later. See you next time.